All right. On this Garlic Marketing Show, we're going to talk about how one formed SaaS built their business on case stories, but also helped one company get 300,000, one nonprofit get 300,000 visitors. Chad Reid from Jotform. Chad, say hi.
Hi, Ian.
And we're going to talk about, the keys to finding great form software. We're going to talk about the importance of forms in general. We're going to talk about Fiona the Hippo out of Cincinnati, his absolute favorite things about case stories, why they've invested so much time and money into it, how they get extra mileage, how the unique ways that they're using it, how they've gotten co-author, co-content with places like Trello and Square using case stories. So much good content here, as well as the best form practices. All this on this Garlic Marketing Show. It's an awesome episode, but don't forget this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. If you want to shortcut it and not have to do 16 years of it, like Chad, and you go try and steal Chad away from Jotform, you can go to videocasestory.com and click get started, and we can help you collect your customer stories. All right, let's get started. Chad, tell me, what do you feel are the keys to choosing a great form software?
Oh man, it really depends on the business, but ease of use and price sensitivity and the security and advanced features, they all kind of play a big role. But online form software, we're still kind of convincing people to switch from pen and paper. I think it's still not a broadly known thing that you can just create and deploy an online form without having any technical expertise. So we're still getting the word out, and I think people are really pleased to discover what we have to offer, even though we've been around since 2006, believe it or not.
It's so funny because I think people underestimate forms, but it's like you've brought people all this way and everyone talks about content, and I think about this like PandaDoc and proposals. Everyone thinks about all these other things, but this is that moment that you've been going for to get someone's information. And you work so hard, you do all this content, and now you want to start the conversation, and people just throw that piece away, don't they?
Completely. I mean, forms are so important. And honestly, and this is coming from a biased perspective, I think forms are so cool. They really are. And it's not something I really used in my work before I came to Jotform. I was obviously aware of online forms, but truly I use it for everything. I use it for everything in my personal life. I use it if I'm, RSVPing or getting people to RSVP for a cookout, or side projects that I work on, or if I'm collecting, I use it to log my workouts. I used it to collect addresses for my wedding. It's really a powerful tool, and it's just a great way to get the exact information you need when you need it and where you need it. And it's just sounds like such a simple concept, but it's incredibly powerful. And then when you apply that to businesses of any variety, it's going to help you get customer information or employee feedback or job applicants. So it's so versatile. It can be used in a variety of ways. And when it's easy and when it's powerful, it just becomes such an invaluable tool. So I'm a big believer in it. I know forms are not a sexy topic, right? But
it's a fundamental. It's a fundamental.
It's so fundamental. Yeah, it really is. And
it's absolutely fundamental. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me at the end what best practices you're seeing now, because I feel forms have changed. But before we get into that, I want to talk about, like you said, you have to convince people, and you're using another fundamental, case studies, video case stories, to convince people to use forms, and use specifically Jotform.
Right.
Where was the point in Jotform where they started to do that? Because you know what, actually, we've had Jotform on before talking about this very subject, and I think they had one or two case studies a long time ago, probably 6 years ago. And now you guys have really built into it. Let's just go with, why do you feel it's so important?
I think you kind of touched on it a little bit at the beginning. And online forms don't really jump off the page, right? If we're going to sit there and create content about online forms, we're going to lose people's interest. It doesn't resonate.
Mhm.
But what is fascinating is the businesses that we choose to highlight. Their stories are more compelling. Their stories are far more interesting than anything that we can do. So, we use video testimonials and video case studies as an opportunity to really showcase how we're involved in their success stories. And it's been really, really fun project. And the first time we did it, it was 2006. And, I kind of pitched the idea to our CEO. I knew a freelance videographer that I trusted. And then we kind of set off, and I was so nervous about how it was going to turn out. We were taking this big leap. We went to this really gritty warehouse where this guy was some like welding together lifting equipment, like weightlifting equipment. And it was just such an unusual work day for us. We're taking such a departure from our day to day to visit this business. And and I'm just like, okay, did the interview turn out well enough? And I was completely in a panic until the thing came out, and I was so impressed. And their story was so cool. The guy that we interviewed was amazing. The visuals were really on point. And then our CEO, of course, loved it. And then that freelance videographer that we commissioned for that project, he's like, let's just hire him full time and make a lot more of these. So we've kind of been on a chase ever since, just finding the next great customer case study. And fortunately with Jotform, we have 18 million users. It's a pretty big pool from which to choose great customer stories. So we pick them off one by one as we see great ones.
I want to get to the Hippo story, but I also want to ask you like how you're finding them, right? Because obviously 18 million users, you've got to be selective, but also you want to find them. But let's talk about the Hippo first.
Yeah. Love hippos.
I love hippos. So tell me about, the Cincinnati Zoo has a hippo. Tell us a little bit about that. And then how did you find the Cincinnati Zoo as a client?
Yeah. So the Cincinnati Zoo has a new baby hippo named Fritz. Adorable. Highly recommend you give him a follow on social media. Check out his videos as well. So Fritz was born in the summer in 2022 here. I should take a step back. I'm a Cincinnati native. I always keep an eye on all things sort of Cincinnati, and I had knowledge that the Cincinnati Zoo was a Jotform user for years. I was just as a point of pride. I kind of looked at the major businesses within the city of Cincinnati and just kind of like stored that little nugget of information away that the Cincinnati Zoo was a Jotform user. But flash forward to this past summer, they started making national news all over the place, CNN and NPR. And Good Morning America actually revealed the name announcement. That's kind of how big of a deal it was. But they were using Jotform to collect name suggestions for their new baby hippo. And then that's what caught my attention. And then once they narrowed it down to two final choices, Ferguson or Fritz, they had another Jotform that they were using as a poll, where people can vote on one or the other. So we played an integral part in their journey to name this adorable hippo, and they collected over 300,000 responses, either via name suggestion or vote to get to that final result. So obviously I was just over the moon by that, and reached out and wanted to see if they were open to us filming them and getting their story, and they've been Jotform fans for a long time. So just a prime example of they are a baby hippo is just way more fascinating than anything that is going to come out of my mouth. So that was something that we love, that type of story, obviously. And they're not every customer is going to have a celebrity hippo. That's pretty rare, but very, very cool for us. I should say also the importance of new baby Fritz is important because he had an older celebrity hippo sister, Fiona, who's now 5 years old. And many of your listeners might actually know who Fiona is. Big time success. Millions of impressions online. So that was kind of how the story was framed. Fiona has a new baby brother. Votes in. The Cincinnati Zoo is looking for naming suggestions. So we jumped all over it.
And so,
Yeah.
And why was it critical that they used a form versus sending an email versus getting a like on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think from their perspective, it was a way that they can get the information that they needed where they needed it and where they could sort it. And if that's all coming in email, it's going to be completely unwieldy and very, very difficult to manage, very, very difficult to sort through, to find any trends, to spot anything that's useful. Social media, kind of the same thing, right? So yeah, with a form, it really gave them a chance to get exactly what they needed, and then sort of in the place where the people that were reviewing it could access it all collectively. So I think they were talking at kind of they moved it into a spreadsheet where it was really able to map around the information, and even though it was hundreds of thousands that they were able to sift through and make some educated decisions.
You get 300,000 likes on social media. I think this is a big thing. You get 300,000, and it's funny because I literally was just talking to someone about this on their YouTube channel, because I was doing a YouTube channel audit, and I'm like, you have 0 links to any forms on your YouTube channel. Like, I'm like, that's great. You have a ton of viewers, but that one-time view, you might get a subscriber, you might not, but collecting that information, like getting a viral video lasts for so long, but 300,000 names, that's marketing gold, isn't it?
Totally, right. Not to ride on their coattails, but we knew we needed to be a part of that. And then that was a opportunity we didn't want to miss. So we did partner with them in the naming of, or the announcement of Fritz too, because nice. When they were announcing that to the world, we wanted to make sure that see what we could do to have it be our friends at Jotform, powered this announcement, and we're pleased to announce Fritz. So that was really exciting for us that they were open to that. We kind of worked on a creative solution, and so it turned into more than just a standard pitch to participate in a case study. We kind of got a little bit more mileage out of it.
I love that. And like it's smart, because you identify those opportunities, you get the mileage out of it. And also now you also have something to show people for a long, long time, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Completely. Yeah. Yeah. And we think with something like this too, sort of a very, very distant secondary goal, but people are going to look online for Fritz. They will. And if it's anything like his older sister, they'll be looking for months, if not years down the road. So if we have a great video kind of highlighting their story, that's going to draw more eyeballs to Jotform too. Just from an SEO value standpoint, for the long haul. So we're hoping it pays off, but fun experience all around.
And we mentioned something before the show too that I think is critical, that people forget about these types of stories. Like, you could write 1,000 blog posts and you probably wouldn't inspire your team at all. No offense, but not that you're not the best writer in the world, but I mean, your team was excited about this too, weren't they?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. There is a team morale component of that, and they were completely psyched. One of our recruiter even bought like a little stuffed hippo for the office, and it was very cool. I think when people can kind of connect with a user story or get excited about a user story, they can kind of see what they're doing from a job perspective as more than just their job. It's actually helping someone. It's helping someone's bottom line. It's helping a nonprofit's bottom line. And that's, that can really be a big motivation. And it's kept me motivated too. I've been at Jotform for 8 years. My absolutely favorite thing is diving into user stories and seeing how people are using us, and it really puts in perspective, if I angst over an email or something like that, like, oh, okay, that's why I'm doing it, right? Like there's something bigger at play.
I love that. I love it because that's the difference, I think, too. This is where I always tell people the difference between testimonials and stories, right? If the Cincinnati Zoo said, "Oh, we love Jotform, it's great," that's great. But if you're telling the story of how you helped the zoo and how excited they were and how you transformed and got them, help their nonprofits, it's exciting for a team because, like you said, we all have bad days, and it's nice to be able to go over there and go, "Oh, we're actually doing something good here."
Completely. Yeah, completely.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that's an interesting distinction too. And one thing that we really put an emphasis on whenever we're doing a video case study is we dedicate a lot of the time to asking them questions not related to Jotform. We almost give them a full minute in any case study of just talking about their business, like what got them started, what keeps them going, like what makes them different. And then we kind of eases into, oh, by the way, we use Jotform. It's a big help to us, but we almost never lead with that because again, it's not the interesting part of it. So it is really about a story, and we love these stories, and we want to tell them just as much as we want to tell our own story.
Yeah, of course, and it gives people a chance to connect to that person telling that story, because I see that so much in like testimonials. It's like, oh, I love Jotform. Bill W, XYZ company. I'm like, what is XYZ company? Who's Bill W?
Right.
Why should I care about him? But you give them a couple minutes talking about the zoo and who they are. Now we're connecting to the person.
Yeah, completely.
That's super smart. It's great. And it gives a good feeling too to the person giving the story too, that they're not, that they're being promoted as well. And you've done that. And I love that you've committed so much time to this, but also you're doing it across industries. How are you being intentional with that and going across industries? Do you focus and say, hey, I want to go across industry, figure out this industry, or is it just like whatever pops up?
A little bit of both. Yeah. And I think there are kind of three major criteria that we look for in any case study, or check boxes, I should say. Some of them will check multiple, some might just check one, but first and foremost is the company interesting. In the Cincinnati Zoo's case, there's a big interest story there, right? But generally speaking, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we wouldn't fly across the country for an accounting firm. Maybe we will one day. I don't. But generally speaking, is there a story to tell that we think is going to be interesting from a video standpoint, from a blog standpoint? The second one is kind of along the same lines, but a little bit different. But is there a visual element for video that's going to really pop? So I mentioned, going to like the welding shop before, where we got some great B-roll. We've gone to bourbon distilleries where we got amazing footage. The Cincinnati Zoo, we're going to have amazing footage. We've gone on location to really amazing spots where it just kind of shined in itself in Key West or Seattle, or I don't know. We kind of have that as like another.
I gotta stop you here. Sorry, Chad. Are you sure this is Jotform's or Chad Reid's travel bucket list?
I know, right? That sounds so bad.
I'm gonna go get some bourbon. I'm going to go do some welding. I need to go back to the Cincinnati Zoo. Oh, by the way, I'm going to Key West.
Yeah. Every time I used to get so nervous about sending like the proposal emails, like, I think we need to go to this one. The Key West one, interestingly, I didn't realize that they were in Key West. I just knew that they said something about Florida and their LinkedIn, which is a lovely place, obviously, to visit on its own. I had no idea it was Key West, but they were a best-selling author, and they were using Jotform, and I reached out to them pretty blindly. And then they followed up that it was Key West, and I was like, well, we've made it this far, we might as well go. So yeah, I've just by chance seen some pretty remarkable places through these visits, but that's not usually the main aim in going. But good catch. Yeah.
I just, the content creator in me is now thinking like, I mean, we need like a like a meta version with just Chad, like you presenting it to the, like, oh yeah, here comes Chad again. Where are we going this time, Chad? And then like the end of the video is like, oh, you know, we're choosing now, Chad, and like then you end up going to the accounting firm,
Right.
That's so now you're collecting these videos. How many case studies have you all done?
I think we're north of 30 at this point, which is kind of a lot. You know, these are on-site case studies where we left the office for the day. Like I said, in many cases we traveled to see them, and then we put some production value into them, and then for the blog that some that we maybe didn't have the time for, or maybe just weren't quite worth the investment in video, we have probably another 30. I mean, customer stories in general, pretty big, pretty big part of our marketing program at Jotform. But yeah, from a video standpoint, at least 30 at this point, and looking to continue to grow. It might even be closer to 40. I'm not sure. It's quite a few.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're great content. They're great for SEO.
Yeah.
Obviously great on YouTube, great on across all the platforms. What are some of the unique ways that you're repurposing, reusing these case studies, these videos?
Yeah, great question. First and foremost, as soon as we get them, we always try to highlight them in our newsletter. Monthly newsletter goes out to close to 5 million email subscribers at this point. So and that's honestly, that's a bit of a hook to get someone to participate, right? It's like, hey, we're going to tell your story. We're not just going to focus on us, and it's going to send to millions of email addresses. Like, are you interested? This is going to be a good promotional opportunity for you too. And that usually helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's just a great opportunity to get eyeballs on those. Then they publish in our blog right off the bat. Really strong ones. We'll kind of create a landing page for them. Or as we segment our user base for various campaigns, we always have them in our back pocket. They're pretty evergreen.
Yeah.
A good case study is going to be evergreen. So we're going to be able to use it years down the road. So if we have a really great healthcare one, we can include that in healthcare campaigns, whether it's via YouTube or AdWords, and we're redirecting to a healthcare focused landing page, or whatever. And I would say the other one that we've gotten creative with, Jotform being a form provider, we're in some ways only as strong as our integrations, our direct integrations. Because for the most part, people aren't looking for forms; they're looking for the information and where that information gets sent to. So we have really, really strong integrations. Well, sometimes that kind of comes out in their customer stories where they're talking about how one in particular loved what they created using Jotform and Trello, the Kanban project management software. So Trello was really excited about that too. So, we worked on a co-marketing agreement with them, and they were promoting it just as we were promoting it. They were writing it in their blog or promoting it on social media. So it was kind of a good way to amplify some of this content. And we did the same thing with some other partners. Square is a notable one. We did Square Payments. We had a great customer story that loved how they were using both Square and Jotform to collect bill payments through a bill payment form. And then Square put that all over the place. And that was as a part of their paid advertising campaign that was on their their own healthcare page. So that there was this content that we created once, but it was getting repurposed, not just by Jotform, but some of our partner companies. But that's kind of the great thing. And because, like I was saying, they are evergreen content. They're going to be useful a year later. You can kind of find other ways to use them effectively.
Yeah, and it's a great way. I mean, because otherwise, Square and Trello might promote some content for you, maybe not. But I mean, that like you said, that's evergreen content that they can use over and over again.
For sure.
And I mean, talk about standing out in their marketplace. It makes it a lot. I mean, you really can stand out in your partners' marketplaces.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a great way to be using it. And I think you mentioned something really quickly, but I think it's absolutely critical, because you listen to your customer stories to see those other opportunities of places to market, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it comes out in the interview itself, or something will kind of maybe that wasn't even spoken of in the screening of this user, or there's something that really pops, and we'll use that as a way to focus in on that. Or if they're most of the time, if someone's a really heavy Jotform user, there's not one form, there's many forms. So there's all sorts of learning when we're having these discussions with them. And yeah, a lot of that does turn into additional ideas to promote them.
Nice. And so how are you using Jotform to collect and screen, and like you said, all these stories of 18 million users?
Yeah, I mean, the process of finding the right case study is a very manual one. As we use Jotform for it, we always have a form kind of attached to the bottom of any case study, whether it's on YouTube or in our blog, for our own users, if they want to be highlighted to kind of fill out a request form. Not all of them jump out as great opportunities for us to send the video team to, but they always at least get a follow-up response, and that might be good for the blog or something like that for one of our content writers. But actually sourcing them is kind of a real gritty manual process of, we'll send the data team. I'll go back to like your other question too, of like some of the criteria, but the final criteria that I don't think I mentioned was, does it solve a problem that we're trying to specifically market, or an industry that we're trying to specifically target? In those cases, we'll ask for a list of nonprofit users, or ones that are using Jotform for donations or for volunteer applications or something like that, or summer camps. We've had that request before, and then we get a spreadsheet list, and we're literally going through one by one, and kind of like you learn to make it quick over time. But what's jumping out is a good story. Like, are they a heavy user? How many forms do they have? Where are they based? What does the organization do? You can kind of glean a lot of these things in just 3 minutes of quick research. So we just highlight the ones and make a short list, and then we start reaching out, and we have probably I'd say 50%, maybe up to 60-70% success rate once we reach out.
Nice.
And at that point, again, we always lead with, we're going to promote you too, right? Like, this is, we're getting eyeballs on what you're doing. We love what you're doing. We love how you're using Jotform. And we've been very fortunate that at that rate, if they're using us heavily, they like us. So it's we're not getting anyone that's like, oh, we hate Jotform. Well, then why are you a paid customer? It would be unusual. Yeah, but it's very manual. Sometimes we'll do it geographically based. If we if we know we're going to Cincinnati to highlight the zoo, we'll ask the data team to pull a list of Cincinnati-based customers, so we can just kind of pour through and see if there's another one that we can tack on while we're on the trip.
Super smart.
Yeah, I mean, it still just takes rolling the sleeves up and digging at the user profiles, and it has to be done one by one. But I think it's the best way.
Yeah, and I mean, and obviously, if you've been doing it for years, it's a good return on investment.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Especially, I will say, Jotform is moving up market. We have more and more of an enterprise-based clientele, and that they are exceedingly focused on testimonials in a way that our standard, subscription price plan customers were not. So that will, of course, usher in the need to get like bigger and bigger case study participants in the future. But it's also, something that we're going to see a lot of ROI on, and our salespeople really see the value in that too. So yeah, it's good all around.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most powerful piece out there. But like I said, like forms, they're fundamentals, and I think that's how you win games, and you win is by focusing on the fundamentals. It's not sexy, and it's not the latest ad hack, but you've consistently done it, and you consistently built, and now you're so far ahead probably of all your competition. It's really hard for anyone to even think of catching up. For sure. Yeah, for sure. I will say one final reason why I should have mentioned this earlier, but case studies were valuable to us too, because we started out as a Turkish-based company that
for 8 years existed without any formalized marketing. And then in 2014, we opened our marketing office. I was one of the first hires for that, and we've built it out to be much larger today. But our users were very US based. So we needed some way to sort of tell the story of US based users. And case studies were such a profoundly effective way to do that, and without a doubt, we kind of planted our flag here. And one of the best ways to do that is to tell, US based user stories. So
I love talking about video case stories. I mean, it's my favorite thing to talk about. But let's talk tactics. What are you seeing working? Now you're looking across all these.
Mhm.
How are forms changing? Because it seems like something like, oh, let me just throw up names, blah, blah, blah. But I'm thinking about it all the time. Like, do I put first name? Do I put last name? What do I put next to it? What do I put around it? Where I put it? How does it look on mobile? Because that's that point of friction that doing that right could literally double or triple your results.
Completely.
And so what, how are they changing? What are you seeing different? What are some of the trends you're seeing?
Yeah, it's funny in some ways. Good form practices haven't changed a lot. I think what was great 10 years ago is still probably good today. And a lot of those tenets are, not overcomplicating your form, which so many businesses are guilty of doing. Don't ask questions that you don't need the answer to. Ask don't ask the things that you want, ask the things that you need, especially anything that's customer facing or prospect facing, I should say. Design aesthetics, and this is something where there is some more modernization because you have the ability to make a form look exactly like your brand, whether you're sending it as a standalone link or you're embedding it on your website. Branding matters, even if it's just cleaning up the font to match the font on your website, adding a logo, making sure like the colors are exactly matching your brand's. A small step, right? But one that a 5-minute investment is going to build trust, because people don't trust something that looks disjointed or not similar to what they're expecting, right? You don't want to ask them or have them ask any questions about what they're getting into. And then I don't know. I mean, I think anything that you can do to make it conversational is always great. I always think the submit button is a great place to just add a little bit of personality, and let people or tell people exactly what they're submitting. I think the default for any form software, as it is with Jotform, is just submit, but that's always text that you can edit, right? So maybe instead of submit, it's download my ebook, or submit, or like send my donation, or donate now, or whatever it is, right? But being specific to what you're doing, I think kind of reinforces what it's all about, and customers like that. So little things, little best practices are going to go a long way. It's hard to say where forms are going to go. I can tell you with Jotform, we're going to continue to work on the user experience, not only from the creation standpoint, but from the experience of filling it out. We want our users to be able to get high conversion rates too. It's important. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
And I think that's, user experience, I think is a super important part from both sides, but if the software isn't easy for the form creator to make, then they don't do the things that you just said, and they don't make forms, and they don't share them, and they don't want to share them because it's a pain in the butt, and they think, oh my God, but you're collecting all this data. I love having our forms. I can go in there and be like, let me go find all this data. I need to find the answers to this. And I'm looking in Jotform right now, and it's just so simple. It's so clean. I love it, because like I've used software. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be like, I get daunted, and then I'm like, oh, let me go do something else. That's fantastic. Well, this has been awesome. Go to jotform.com. We'll put a link to, this will be coming out in a few weeks. So we'll put a link to the case story, and we'll put a link to all their case studies on the page, so you can go take a look at it. Where do you guys really showcase these? Where should we put a link to? YouTube? Is that your best place?
Yeah, I'd say YouTube's best story, or best place for that. They're all over our blog, but from a consolidated standpoint, YouTube's the best spot.
Awesome. We'll put links to all that. And Chad, if someone wants to follow you on your marketing journey, where should we put a link to?
I guess my LinkedIn is probably the best best place to start. Again, I'm also my author profile on the blog. Really easy way to get a hold of me, and that's just at jotform.com/blog. And then one of the Chad Reid stories on there. But yeah, otherwise LinkedIn's perfect.
Yeah, and you can follow. I guess it's after the fact you'll get to see all the cool places that Chad gets to go to do customer stories.
Don't let out my secret.
Well, this has been fantastic, Chad. Thank you so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks, Ian.
And thank you for taking Chad and I on your journey. Make sure to go check out Jotform, check out all their amazing video case stories. It's been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.